expert, Mrs. Rohini ma'am, from Pearson, Australia, Melbourne. Uh, a passionate agile enthusiast with over 13 years of experience, predominantly in the IT industry, and have played various roles like agile coach, Scrum Master, iteration manager, project leader, and developer for top-class global companies. She
expert
would
at building expert at building high-performing, self-organizing teams that deliver quality solutions with a naturally low operational overhead while developing and maintaining a magnificent team spirit. Her experience ranges from training, coaching, mentoring, maturity assessment to value delivering through excellent understanding of global business environment. Key areas of expertise include scaled agile, Scrum, extreme programming, Kanban methods. Without getting late, let's start this. And now we request Ms. Rohini ma'am to share her knowledge.
Thank you so much, guys. It's really my honor and my pleasure to be here. And thanks for giving me this opportunity to share my knowledge on what I've gained over the past 13 or so years. And you can call me Rohini. You don't have to call me ma'am. So I'm comfortable if you call me by name directly. At any point of time, you can ask me questions. I think we're planning to do the questions at the end of the session, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yep. All right. No, Rohini is fine. You will have to work at some point, right? I mean, you'll have to start addressing people by their names, not ma'ams or sirs. So you can start doing it now. Is it okay if I start sharing my screen now?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, no, ma'ams. All right. Let me share my screen. I hope it's visible. Is it? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, guys. So yeah, today we'll be talking about agile software development. So if you take a look at the agenda, we'll be talking about why we're talking about agile now, and then we'll look at what is agile. Then we'll sort of look at the comparison between waterfall and agile. After that, we'll take a look at the agile frameworks and then Scrum and a bit of extreme programming if the time permits. So I've planned the session for about 45 minutes, of which 10 minutes is already consumed, but let me see if I can cover extreme programming as well. If I'm too fast at any point of time, please let me know. I can slow down for you guys. All right. Okay, even before we start talking about what is agile, I think we'll have to look at the history. I mean, what was happening before agile? So understanding the history is more important. Only then we'll be able to value whatever we are, the benefits that we are getting out of agile at this point. So a bit of history. So even before agile was born, the software industries were using the most dominant model at that point of time, which is waterfall model. And when I say at that point of time, it doesn't mean that waterfall was only existing at that point of time. It still exists because it definitely has its benefits. For you all to understand how it actually looks like, so here's a picture. So it essentially has different phases or stages, and one stage follows another. So you start with requirements, then you move into design. So if only requirements stage is complete, you can move to design. So you can't move to design with half-cooked requirements. Similarly, only after design is 100% complete, you can move to implementation, which means coding. And similarly, only after the entire coding is completed, you can move to verification, which is testing. And once the testing is complete and all of these stages are complete, the code is ready to be deployed into the production, and then you kind of maintain the code from there. So these are the 5 stages that define our waterfall model. So if you observe, these 5 stages are already predefined. So waterfall model is nothing but a linear approach, as in one after the other, where processes or stages occur in a predictable sequence. So when you know testing is in progress, that means it has already completed requirements design and implementation. Similarly, when coding is complete, so it's understood that requirements and design are complete. So it's a very linear approach, and it is called waterfall because it's kind of, falling, and there's no way it can go back. So it definitely should happen in the same sequence. And because of this, it's mostly process focused. So the focus is always on following process, following the stages in a way that they have been designed. You do not have any flexibility at any point of time to change any of these. And that's why Agile was born. Now, if you take a look at the benefits and the disadvantages of Waterfall and why Agile was born, this is a slide. So the pros as in what are the advantages of Waterfall? The advantages are definitely it is structured and you have a discipline, as in you'll only start testing after the coding is done, or only you'll start the coding only after the design is done. So you have a very disciplined approach. It's definitely easy to understand and also easy to implement, and that's why it's been used for so long. But then the condition is everything should be planned upfront, because you code only after the requirements are 100% done. So you can't change anything in between. So everything is planned upfront. And because of this, you will have obviously clearly defined objectives, and there's comprehensive documentation. The stress or the focus is also on documenting every stage. And then also when you give a cost estimate or a time estimate, they're very accurate because there's no change that's going to happen. And that's why these are it's whatever estimates you give for cost and time, they're going to be accurate. And now, if you take a look at the disadvantages and the reason why Agile was born is because if you notice, the entire process is very rigid and inflexible. I mean, you strictly have to follow requirements, design, implementing, testing, and then deployment. There's no way that you can make any changes. Let's say when your piece of code is in testing and customer asks for a change, you really can't make that change because you have to all the way go back to requirements, again design, and then code. So it's very rigid and inflexible. You can't adapt to changes, be it in the requirements, you can't accept the changes in the requirements, or even in the processes as to how they are defined. And even if at any point of time, if customer demands for a change, then it'll be very costly and time consuming because you have to start from the scratch. You have to start from the requirements phase. And that's why it's going to be very costly and time consuming to incorporate any changes that the market wants or customer wants. Also, the outcomes are only seen at the end, only during the stage where code is being deployed to production. Only then the customer gets to see. So at any point of time, customer is hardly involved and only gets to see the outcome at the end. And because it is so much process focused, people are hardly given importance here. So it's always the deadlines that we have to meet. It is always the cost estimates that we have to meet, which means people are asked to work for more hours or spend more time in office only to meet these deadlines. So this is the whole reason why Agile is born. Now let's understand what Agile is. Now, if you are looking for a fancy definition for Agile, being iterative, incremental, no, you don't have any such definitions. So Agile is simply a set of values and principles as defined in Agile Manifesto. So Agile Manifesto is a kind of Bible or is a kind of guide for every Agile implementation. So anybody who's following an Agile, anybody who's going through any training on Agile, the first thing that you will be referred to is Agile Manifesto. And that's why Agile is, there's no definition as such. It's simply a set of values and principles as defined in Manifesto. And if you're wondering what Manifesto is, it's definitely not like our elections manifestos where you promise something, but you don't get to see them. but these are some things that we have to follow. So this is what Agile Manifesto for software development looks like. A group of 17 software practitioners from various backgrounds met in February 2001 in a ski resort in the snow mountains of Utah. So the whole purpose of that meeting was to figure out a way or to come up with an alternative way to the already existing waterfall approach, which is heavy on documentation and also the process where heavy. There's no flexibility. So ultimately, at the end of the meeting, they've come up with Agile Manifesto, and it reads as this one: we are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Through this work, we have come to value individuals and interactions are more important than processes and tools. Working software is valued more over comprehensive documentation. Customer collaboration valued over contract negotiation. Responding to change over following a plan. I'm sure you must have come across this in your theory, but I'm trying to stress how important this is. So any agile training you go to, the first thing you'll be introduced to manifesto, and these are the values. What you see are the values. The ones on the left are, so the ones on the right, okay, sorry, I'm confusing. So the ones on the left are valued more than the ones on the right. We will not say, or Agile doesn't say we don't need documentation. We need documentation. However, working software will be more important than comprehensive documentation. So the ones on the left are valued more than the ones on the right. That's the point. And if you're looking for who the list of those 17 people are who are met, here they are. You have Kent, you have Alistair Cockburn, you have Martin Fowler, you have Jeff Sutherland, you have Ken Schwaber. These are all popular names that you hear in Agile world. So these are the values that we've seen in the manifesto. If we talk about individuals and interactions over processes and tools, in the organizations that follow Agile, we still have processes and tools. However, interactions are given more importance. For an example, if let's say a tester found a bug in the piece of code, rather than raising it as a defect and then following the process of escalation and all of that, Agile encourages the tester to talk to the developer directly. While the tester raises the bug, the developer also gets to fix it. So it's a communication which is important. It is the people that we want to respect rather than only the tools and processes. So there's that flex. And the second one is working software is given more importance over comprehensive documentation. We still have documents, but it's only just enough documentation. So if you have to communicate to your customer about how we are progressing, show them the working piece of software rather than giving him a set of pages and asking him or her to read through those pages. Like if you let's say you buy a mobile, right? A mobile, when you buy it, will you read the manual, the user manual, or will you try to get hands-on with that and try to use it? There's hardly anybody who uses manual unless there is a need. But that doesn't mean that mobiles are sold without manuals. You'll still have manual, but only for reference. Same is the case with documentation. Documentation is only needed just for guidance, but that should not be a measure of progress. At any point of time, you should be able to show working piece of software. The third one is customer collaboration over contract negotiation, which means, yes, you get into a contract with the customer, but that should not stop you from collaborating with the customer. Just because you signed a contract with the customer doesn't mean that you have to show your working piece of software only at the end of the contract. You can continue to collaborate with the customer. So that's more important than having a contract. The last one is responding to change over following a plan. We surely do have a plan. we should have a plan, but then you should not be stubborn enough or rigid enough to not encourage any changes. So this is important. The whole reason why Agile was born is to incorporate change. So you should be able to respond to change over following a plan. These are the key values. And if you're wondering how all of this might look like at work, then comes the principles. So if you're wondering, individuals and interactions are given more importance over process and tools, which means um, business people and developers must work together daily through the projects. So it means the interactions are given more importance. So all the four values look like this when they put they when they are put into work. So we have four values in the manifesto. Similarly, we also have 12 principles. And I've put a link in the slide pack, which links to Agile Manifesto. I think at the end of the session, I'll share the slide pack with you guys and you can take a look and access these links at your free time. So the 12 principles are: our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. So the key here is satisfying the customer through early delivery, but also continuous delivery. Second thing, welcoming changing requirements even late in the development. Agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. This is directly in link with the fourth value where it says responding to change over following a plan. I think reading all of this will take a lot of time, but feel free to read them and get back to me when you have questions. But in this is, I mean, this is just a continuation of the values, and when put into practice, this is how they look like. Just trying to save some time here. Okay. Professor, do we want to check for any questions that the team has, or do you want me to continue?
You may continue.
Sure, thanks.
You may continue. Thank you.
And do I have to slow down, or am I good with the pace?
No, it's perfect. No problem.
All right, thank you. Now let's take a quick look at how Waterfall versus Agile looks. So in Waterfall, if you saw requirements, then you had design, then you had development, then you had testing, and then you had deployment. And this entire process might take years. And the outcome will be only seen after 1 year or 2 years, whatever is the duration of this. But what Agile suggests is continuous and early delivery. So rather than waiting 1 or 2 years to deliver your project, why not deliver every month or every 2 months or every 3 months? All these steps are done in a cycle. So you do requirements, you do design, develop, test, deploy. And again, based on any feedback, you take that feedback and then you do that process again. So you do it iteratively and incrementally. So in the first iteration is the first cycle. You probably have delivered a small chunk of work. And in the second iteration, you've already added your small chunk of work developed in this one gets added to already delivered outcome and it becomes big. So that way, by the end of the entire project cycle, you're able to deliver the entire outcome. So the key to notice here is when you follow Agile, you can't say that you can complete the 1 year project within 6 months. That's not the thing here. When you read somewhere that Agile improves the speed to market, it doesn't mean that something which takes 1 year to develop, test, and deploy that will not be completed in 6 months. The key here is Agile is able to deliver to market at shorter cycles. So rather than waiting for 1 complete year, you try to release to the market in short cycles. Let's say 3 months, 2 months, whatever is the cycle that you have agreed to. So that's the key here. So it'll still take 1 year. However, you don't have to wait for 1 year to see the outcome. You'll start getting the outcomes at the end of every iteration. The other important thing to note is in Waterfall, if you take the parameters time, cost, and scope, your time and cost are variable, but the scope is fixed. Remember, I said no changes are accepted. If a customer asks for 10 features and you sign a contract with your customer that you will be delivering 10 features, you will have to deliver. There may be a change in time and cost based on how the project progresses, but that the scope is fixed. But with Agile, you have a fixed time and cost, but the scope changes, as in a limited time with a limited budget, what you tend to deliver is prioritized in a way that when it is delivered, whenever it is delivered, it is of highest importance. So the triangle gets totally inverted the moment it comes to Agile. Here in Waterfall, the scope is fixed, but in Agile, scope is variable because we are encouraging changes to happen. I think I can quickly run through an example. I've put across an example, and I'm sure we can spend some time. This is more important so that you get the idea through. All right, I'm looking for my browser. Sorry, give me a second. All right. I just didn't want to only do a lot of talking. I've come up with an example, and we can spend about 5 minutes doing this example. Okay, let's assume this is you. I'm very bad at pictures, so yeah, you as in any of you, the students, and you are a professional ice cream maker, and you're looking for a business. Suddenly, you meet a customer who's also ready to set up a business. And let's assume that customer is me, and I want to open Rohini ice creams, okay, after my name. I'm actually looking for professional ice cream makers. So yes, and I found you. Good. So I'm ready to sign a 1-year contract with you, where you have to make for me vanilla. Okay, I'll open that list of ice creams. Where you have to make for me strawberry ice cream, vanilla ice cream, chocolate ice cream, butterscotch. Okay, I don't think it'll take 1 year. Let's make it 3 months. All right. So the agreement between you and me is to come up with all these ice creams in 3 months of time. So in 3 months, I'm ready to launch my business with these 4 ice creams. Okay. And I've given you a budget of, let's say, 10 lakhs. Okay. So you have the cost and you also have the deadline. The deadline is 3 months. Where is it? Okay, I didn't give that. So you and I are going to start an ice cream business with 10 lakhs budget, and also let me put a time frame here or here. Let me do it here. Okay. Okay, 3 months. In 3 months time. So time is 3 months, budget is 10 lakhs. Okay. And let's say we need a project manager to run this entire project. And you are, because you're a professional ice cream maker, you are the one who will actually implement. So you're kind of a developer. Okay. And I've chosen your mom as a project manager. Who can better manage a project than mom when it comes to children? I wish I could see you guys smiling or laughing. When you want to giggle, you can.
Yeah, we are doing.
All right. So we have a project manager as mom. You have a deadline to meet to make all these ice creams in 3 months' time to me. All right. So what would you do? The first step you would do is you will come up with the requirements, right? What will your requirements be? Your requirements are come up with all the list of flavors along with the you've got the list of flavors from the customer, so you don't have to worry about the list of flavors, but you'll have to work on the recipes, right? So your requirements is nothing but detailed recipes. And because we are doing waterfall, you will have to write recipes for each of these. And once your requirement is done, the next stage is to procure all the things that you want. So you will kind of try to get all the resources, the ingredients, the equipment that you want to make your ice cream, right? So I'm calling it procurement. There's no design here. So all the ingredients, the equipment like whipping machine or ice cream maker, or what kind of freezer do you want to buy, and what are the other containers. So procurement and resourcing is the next step that you will do. And you'll only go into this stage after all your detailed recipes are ready. I mean, you know, you have to make all of these. Once the recipes are ready, you'll know how much sugar you have to buy, how much milk you have to buy, how much cream you have to buy. All of that will only happen only if you know the detailed recipes. So you kind of procure. Once that is done, the next stage is you'll have to start making. Okay, you've got everything. You also know the recipes. You'll start making the ice cream. So now you will pitch in and make the ice cream. And if you think you alone can't make the ice creams, what you can do is you can hire more people. It's your I mean, it's your kind of team. So you can ask for more resources or more people. So you can talk to your project manager, which is mom, and say, Mom, can I borrow sister or brother or anybody else to make more ice creams? Okay. And then after that is done, yes, you implement, we'll have a small taste test. So like similar to testing. But then obviously you can't taste your ice cream, as in you can't test your ice cream, because it's always good that you get the feedback from others. And that's why usually a tester is different from a developer. So you can ask your siblings or friends or neighbors to do this taste test. Okay. Let's go to okay, what's the last step? Once everything, if your test fails, all you need to do is just pack and give it to the customer. Okay. And throughout this, notice that customer is not able to view what is happening, right? He doesn't get to see what's happening. And to do all of this, you'll take 3 months to deliver. Now this is waterfall, okay? Where you start from requirements, you do procurement, you make the ice cream, you do the taste test, and then you pack. 3 months, all good. There are no problems, so all went well. But what if in this 3 months, when I wanted to start a business, let's say in ECIL, there was no creamstone then. I don't know if creamstone is there, don't get me wrong, but I'm just kind of giving you an example. There was no creamstone then, so I was happy with 3 months time and I was ready to invest 10 lakhs. But then within that 3 months, once this project was in progress, after the first month, I noticed that Creamstone has set up its business and they're doing very well. What will I do then? What will I do? How will I tell you that do not make anything? Because I don't know how you're progressing. As a customer, I don't know how you're progressing or how things are going. Are we doing good? Are we doing bad? We don't know. So we are not able to incorporate change at any point of time. That's a drawback here. That's one thing. Or what if there is a problem in the taste test that your ice cream is not holding a shape? What happens then? If your ice cream is not holding shape, that means you probably got the wrong resources, or the equipment that you bought is faulty and you have to buy more stuff, which means more budget. Do you think you'll go ahead and talk to the customer? Because you've already signed a contract for 10 lakhs and I said I'll not be giving more than that. So you kind of will give me, you'll still be able to deliver the ice creams, but with less quality, and also with a chance that I may not be successful in my business because a lot has changed in 3 months' time. That's why Agile came in. So instead of waiting for 3 months to get all these done, so what Agile suggests is, how can you do this differently when it comes to Agile? Instead of writing detailed recipes for all strawberry, vanilla, chocolate, butterscotch, you probably pick up one at a time. Let's say in one iteration, you probably only deliver strawberry. Okay. But who will decide if it is strawberry or vanilla or chocolate or butterscotch? You will have to ask the customer. I can deliver stuff in 15 days, but you tell me which ice cream is more important. So that's where the customer will give you the prioritization. Okay, I think people are more interested in chocolate. So instead of strawberry, you kind of make a change and then say, okay, I'm actually giving a chocolate flavor ice cream. Sorry, because this is more important and has more demand in the market. And after 15 days, the moment the customer, okay, after you 50 days, you do the same thing. This is a first iteration, fine. After 15 days, you do the same thing again, the second iteration. So instead of now chocolate, because you've already done chocolate, to that, you kind of make vanilla. You add this to your list now. So you have vanilla. And because I said there was Creamstone who set up their business after 1 month, then you might change, the customer might change the plan and then say, let's scrap all this. Let's go with fruit and nut, a new list, or a seasonal special, or chili ice cream. So whatever, there you're just giving that flexibility and chance to make changes to the business based on the needs. And also the reason we say agile is more people focused is because we encourage ideas. Let's say the person that you hire to make ice creams says, you know what, I've seen a fantastic ice cream in the market, and that's, for example, hazelnut. Okay, we are seeing a lot of demand for hazelnut ice cream. Why don't we do that? That's an idea that came from people, the team members, and you can pitch in that idea to the customer. If the customer likes it, let's go ahead. But all of these changes that you're seeing wouldn't have happened if it was waterfall. You kind of get an idea as to how real time, and also we are not even talking software here. We are talking a different industry. So agile has become so very popular that anybody can embrace agile. Any industry can embrace agile. It is not just limited to software industry anymore. So now you understand the concept of iterations. I'm assuming yes, because I can't even see your faces.
Yes,
All right, thank you, Suma. Okay, now let's get to the slide back. So now you kind of understand, right? So in the same time, 3 months, and in the same cost, 10 lakhs. But what we've delivered changed because we realized that market just not needs vanilla, butterscotch, chocolate, or strawberry anymore. They need new tastes. Now, today the world is changing so frequently, you need to be very adaptive to the changes around and change the scope, even if it is within a given time and cost. All right, I hope the example was helpful. Now, let's take a look at the frameworks. Okay, I'm sorry, I'll be talking to a lot of ice cream today. So Agile is an umbrella, and you have various frameworks under that umbrella. If you consider Agile as an ice cream, yeah, ice cream again, what you see here are various flavors of ice cream. So you just can't eat an ice cream without a flavor. Similarly, you just can't follow Agile without any of these frameworks. So if Agile defines the values and the principles, the frameworks that you see here define the practices. And we call them frameworks, not models as such, because they offer you skeletons and you can customize it to suit your team's needs or your organization's needs. The whole topic of agile or agile frameworks or any certification, yes, there are certifications also in agile world. Any certification usually takes around 2 days minimum to explain the concept of agile or the frameworks in it. I'm trying to crush it to one hour, which is, I want to talk, but I'm not able to because of time. Okay, so there are two type of approaches in agile. One is lightweight, which means one team or two teams. Other is full approaches, as in if the entire organization is going agile, which means hundreds of teams are going agile. So in the case of one or two teams, you will have Scrum, Kanban, Lean, Extreme Programming, CI, CD, FDD, TDD, etc., etc. If you take a look at the bigger version, you will have Scrum of Scrums, Scrum at scale, less, etc., etc. So I'm just trying to introduce or get into your head the various jargon that exist in the market outside. And if you're wondering which of these should we be using, based on the survey that is conducted by State of Agile, and this usually happens every year. So what you're looking at is the recent survey results from 2020. 58% of the uh, companies globally across the world, across various industries, use Scrum. So the most popular framework or most popular agile framework based on these statistics is Scrum. Next is Scrum Ban, which is a mix of Scrum and Kanban. So in my 13 years, I'm lucky to work in Scrum, Kanban, and also get to see the XP practices. This is for obviously one team or two teams. When you're going organizational level, as in at an enterprise level, agile, then you have the most popular one as SAFE. SAFE is the acronym for Scaled Agile Framework. The next is Scrum of Scrums, and the others use their own version. So just trying to give you how different organizations globally use different frameworks to suit their needs. And because Scrum is the most popular one, I thought I'll give a quick introduction to Scrum. So the big thing that you see here in this picture is sprint. Sprint is nothing but a time box, like how we've seen in the principles where you have to deliver early and continuously. Obviously, you'll do it in small time boxes, and that time box is called a sprint in Scrum. And the duration of sprint can be anywhere between 1 to 4 weeks. When I first started working in Scrum, I think long 2007 or 2008, our sprints were 4 weeks. So we had 4 weeks of time to plan, develop, test, and deploy. But now the companies that I'm working for are doing short ones, 1 to 2 weeks. So within 1 to 2 weeks, you will have something to deploy in the production. So for a sprint, for you to begin a sprint, you will have to obviously start with some requirements. The requirements are called backlog items, and if you're doing for a product, then the entire set of requirements, as in the list of to-do things that you have to do in a product, is called a product backlog, which you'll have. Let's say, for example, in our case, our product backlog was vanilla ice cream, chocolate ice cream, strawberry ice cream, and butterscotch ice cream. That's nothing but backlog. Each of it is called a feature. And then you will see of the features that we have, of the backlog items that we have, how many of it can we work on within a 1 week duration, 4 weeks duration, whatever is the sprint's duration. You decide that in a sprint planning meeting. So you get into a sprint by doing a planning meeting where you plan how much of the backlog can be picked up and worked upon. You plan, you work, and every 24 hours you have a stand-up meeting where you kind of understand, are we progressing well with the commitments with the commitments made in the sprint planning. It's like a check-in every day to see if anybody needs any help, is anybody stuck, are we doing good? So that's a check-in that happens every 24 hours. If all goes well, then at the end of the sprint, you have a sprint review where you review the sprint, as in you kind of demonstrate what you've done in the sprint. Remember, we said working software over comprehensive documentation. So it's not like a document. You literally demonstrate what you have developed in that one sprint. And at the end of the sprint, because we give importance to people, we have a conversation with the team to understand if you're going in the right direction, do we have to make any changes? How can we do things differently in the next sprint? So that's a retrospective. So these two happen on the last day. Sprint planning happens on the first day. And every day you have daily stand-up. And during the sprint, you keep refining the backlog. I mean, you take a look at the backlog You take a look at the items and then see if there is any changes that customer wants to make. Like in our case, we had vanilla, strawberry, and everything, right? The customer might come and say, you know what, instead of strawberry, let's try to fit in fruit and nut, or let's try to fit in seasonal specials, only because market doesn't see any need for strawberry now. So that happens, those conversations, adding stuff into backlog, removing stuff, all of that happens in the part as a part of backlog refinement meeting. So yes, you have sprint, you get into it with sprint planning, you meet every day, check in. At the end of the sprint, you review as and demonstrate, and also work out if there is anything that you can do differently as a team. All went well. Yes, you are now ready to ship the code. And if you notice, there are three important roles here. You have the product owner, you have the Scrum Master who runs the entire process, and you have the team who actually works on the deliverables. So the product owner, as the name suggests, he or she is the owner of the product, or he or she is a direct representative of the customer who gives you a list of things that have to be done. Scrum Master is the one who is mastering the whole process of Agile or Scrum, whatever. So they kind of work with the team and the product owner to get the delivery going and to make this a smooth sail for everyone. That's what I do every day. So I currently play as a Scrum Master in Pearson, Australia. As I said, the team is the one who actually works, as in the team is the one who actually develops, tests, and then deploys. And of course, customer is there to give inputs to the product owner. So for the team, it's always the product owner who's a customer who gets the inputs directly from the other stakeholders or anybody who wants various features in your product. Okay, last 3 minutes, I want to spend talking about a little bit of extreme programming. In my 13 years or 13 plus years, I haven't seen XP, as in extreme programming, used as a model alone. I've always seen Scrum or Kanban. I've never seen XP being used as a model. And also, if you see the stats, XP is only 1% used globally. However, that is as a model. However, there are practices like user stories, acceptance tests, acceptance criteria, or spikes, or refactoring, or pay program. All these practices are used in conjunction with Scrum. So just because you're following Scrum, that doesn't mean you should not write your user stories. So your backlog will essentially contain user stories, and then user stories will have acceptance criteria. If anybody wants to do a prototype, let's say in our ice cream example, if somebody wants to say, I want to try out how chili ice cream works out, then you kind of have a spike for it because you're trying to build a prototype. It was never seen or tasted by anyone. You want to try it out and you want to set some time aside for your spikes. So that's a spike. You do refactoring to ensure there is clean code and there are new duplicates. So you kind of restructure your code in a way that the behavior doesn't change, but it looks readable and neat. You have pair programming. Yes, pair program is still practiced in Scrum teams, where two individuals sit on the same laptop or same computer, where one codes, the other kind of reviews the code that is being written. You have unit tests, you have everything. So XP practices are being followed, but I've not seen XP as a model being practiced in industry, or I haven't got a chance. Okay, let me also give you an example of how, sorry. Okay, the user story looks like. Where's my Word document? Okay, here. So a user story is typically written in this way. It's called canonical form of writing. As who is asking for this user story? I want what, so that why. So the user stories are written from a user's point of view, and that's why they are called user stories. It's a story narration. So I've just brought an example here. Like as a credit card holder, so our user is a credit card holder. I want, what does he want? To view my statement balance. so that I can pay the balance due. So this is the user story. So this is how our typical user stories look like also in real world. And for this user story to be treated or to be accepted or to be considered successful, you have acceptance criteria attached. So this is a card. In the front of the card, you'll have the story, and at the back of the card, you'll have the acceptance criteria. The acceptance criteria is you should be able to display statement balance upon authentication, and then display total balance, show payment due date, and what's the minimum period. I mean, how should it look like? Yes, we are talking about statement balance, but you're kind of getting into the details as to what should be visible in the statement balance. And if there are any errors, shout the message. So this is how our user story looks like. I think we've got 9 more minutes. I'm open for questions if anybody's got. I've done enough talking, I guess. Any
Ma'am,
questions, anyone?
ma'am, I
Yep.
have a question. What's the difference between a spiral
Can you
model
call
and
me Rohini?
okay,
Sorry?
okay. What's the difference between spiral and agile? I mean, even spiral is the same.
Um, See, as I said, any framework, any model, um, as long as it is not just iterative and incremental, as long as it is fulfilling the values and the principles, then it is agile. It can be, or spiral can be considered as a way of agile. But remember, it is not just iterative and incremental. Just because you're doing or delivering stuff in iterations doesn't mean you are agile. You will have to take a look at everything. Are we responding to changes? Are we giving more importance to people rather than the processes? So all the 4 key values should be addressed before qualifying yourself as an agile framework.
Okay.
Did you guys understand the example, or was I too fast?
We understood it, ma'am. We understood.
Okay. Is it hot there? Did you want to eat ice cream when I was sharing the example? I wish I saw your faces. Any more questions? If no further questions, I think we can have a quick review of the principles because we've skipped that bit. Are we okay to do it?
Yes, ma'am, we can proceed to that.
I think it should not take more than 15 minutes or so. So I'll get to my slides and bring up that. Okay. All right. So we've covered the first one. Second one is also we've covered welcoming the changes even though late in the development. If it was waterfall, as I said, any changes that have to happen should be started from scratch. So if tester found something that is working unusual, then they have to contact all the way to the people who have written the requirements and then make the change from there. And then deliver working software frequently from a couple of months to from a couple of weeks to a couple of months, with a preference to the shorter time scale. The reason we say shorter time scale, because the shorter the duration, the better is a chance that you get the feedback. Because given at the pace at which the market is changing, even if you deliver stuff in 1 month's time, a lot of changes can happen within that 1 month. So to avoid that, we say, okay, let's start delivering in 2 weeks. If there's any feedback that we can incorporate it in our next iteration or next sprint. Fourth one is business people, as in the ones who give requirements or the ones who give customers or the customers and developers. They must work together daily throughout the projects. This is more about interacting so that we avoid any surprises at the end. And build projects around motivated individuals, give them the environment and support they need, and trust them to get the job done. Now, we have a team, yes, we are paying them, but just because we are paying them doesn't mean that they are our slaves. No, we don't want that. We want to encourage people and then trust whatever they're doing rather than micromanaging to see, okay, where are you at this point of time? I don't see you online. You don't want people to do that. We don't want management to do that. We don't want organization to do that. If you're doing it, then you're definitely not agile. You really want to give importance to people. The most efficient and effective method of conveying information is face to face. And that's why we've seen a recent trend of video calls these days, because it's always good to see somebody when you're talking. So rather than having an email conversation, try to have a chat. And that's why we also have co-located teams. But I think given COVID scenario, even though you're doing remote working, we still prefer to do video calls. Like we do video calls every day, just so that we have that touch and you're able to convey what you want to. If I didn't show my picture now, I don't know how well you would have been connected to this training. So it's the same kind of impact. Working software, as I mentioned, is a primary measure of progress rather than giving a set of documentation. Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. As in, I know if you're working continuously in sprints, there is a chance of burnout. So you kind of incorporate some buffer time. So rather than planning for the entire week or entire 4 weeks, you might plan work only for 3.5 weeks. Uh, the other half week, you can simply do research activities or come up with new ideas that might help the product or project. And then continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances facilities. It's like you can't just keep chopping trees with your axe without sharpening the axe, right? Same is the case here. You just can't continue coding continuously without refactoring your code. So that's a point here. See, another XP practice here. Simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work not done, is essential. This doesn't mean you should not work, like how we had all those 4 different flavors of ice creams, but then we only worked on one at a time, leaving the other 3. It's because we know that at any point of time, only certain things will be important, and we want to focus all our energy on those important things, 1 or 2 important things. The best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. So rather than the manager dictating, or our project manager, in this case, mom, dictating us what to do, when to do, how to do, we want to be self-sufficient in our skills to take decisions by ourselves. And that's where we say we should be self-organizing teams. And at regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective. This is a sprint retrospective I was talking about, to say how can we do things differently to get better. So this covers all the slides, and I can share the slides at the end of this training with you guys. Any last questions? We've got 2 minutes, I know. I probably must have taken a lot of time. Are we doing good?
Any question? Yeah, it was a very nice way of especially the ice cream example worked very nicely to
Thank
understand
you.
the waterfall and the agile. I am
Yeah.
sure we, yeah. And students, any questions you have, you can put it in the chat box. Suma, any questions you have? You please feel free to ask any questions to ma'am, and so that we can close the session then. If you don't have any other questions, any 1 or 2 questions we can take.
So the key takeaway here is Agile is not, again, limited to software. As I said, I've worked in energy industries. I worked in telecom industry. Um, so it's adopted across. Okay, somebody asked me a question. What's the difference between a framework and model? Okay, let me take you to the example of, I'm sorry, here. See, here, if you see the example, now this is a Scrum framework. It is not a model. I mean, we say it framework because it suggests that you can have a sprint between 1 to 4 weeks. However, that's a skeleton. You, as in the organization, will figure out if it is 1 week that works for them or 4 weeks that works for them. So that's a customization that you make. And also the time at which you have these meetings or the duration for which you have these meetings are all customizable. And then in Scrum, we only say there's a backlog or a list of things to be done, but nowhere are we talking about what these are. So that's when we kind of merged Scrum and XP together and said, okay, backlog is nothing but a set of user stories. So framework gives you that flex of doing things in a way that suits your organization. Yes, you have to have sprint planning, sprint retro, all of these, but only these. But how you do it, when you want to do it, is all up to you. So there's that flex. I read that. Was there any other question?
I
All
think
right.
we
I
are
know we
done
are,
now.
yeah, I think we
Hello.
are also beyond time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So guys,
Any,
sorry.
any, and no more questions, so we can wind up. Suma, Shashank.
Yeah. I wanted to say, if in case you have any questions later, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, and that's my LinkedIn address.
Now, I would like to thank Ms. Rohini for enlightening us with their knowledge. It gave deep insights into the topic and also revealed some interesting facts. I'm pretty sure the precious knowledge that Ms. Rohini gave us will definitely help us in our studies and future. Uh, and I would also like to thank Ms. Silotma Goswami ma'am for giving us this opportunity. Thank you all, the students present here, for paying your attention and learning. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thanks, everyone, and good luck.
Can we have one picture? Maybe if all of you can switch on the video.
Yeah, at least a few, 6 or 7 people. We are going